Okay, so I'm here with the man, the legend that is Bob Stuart, the founder and brains behind MQA, an all-round audio whiz kid. So first things first, Bob, hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, and thank you. It's very pleased to meet you.
Really nice to meet you. I'm really excited for this conversation and really happy that you've taken the time to talk to me today. So we're talking all things MQA, that's Master Quality Authenticated for the uninitiated, although this is what hi-fi, so I'm pretty sure you all know what that is. What is it that makes MQA unique and so innovative, Bob?
So MQA came out of a really long period of work on audio and high resolution. Just to give you a little bit of the background, the core team, the core engineering team at MQA consists of people who've worked together since the 1970s. And so particularly with, for example, people like Peter Craven, Michael Gerson, we worked together on the early parts of digital. And along my journey, I started Meridian and I was doing things, building products, but we got very, very interested in actually how you would do recording properly in digital.
Yeah.
And one of the things we invented on the way was the first working lossless compression, which everyone assumes lossless has been here forever, but actually we made it work and spent some time persuading the music industry that it was a good idea. It's funny. And so, after CD was very popular, we're talking about 2000, high resolution was coming in because people were not completely happy with the sound of digital. But at the same time, there was a terrific shift in the industry because the minute that there was digital files, we got piracy and we got compression because of low bandwidth and MP3 and everything else. But on the way, there was a serious effort made by us and some other people in Japan and so on the idea of high resolution. Anyway, that's a long introduction to the topic, but basically what happened was around 2006, 2010, we started to see some very interesting information coming out about human neuroscience. Now, don't want to get too technical, but part of my studies, part of my hobby is human auditory science. Actually, how do we hear things? Yeah. What actually happens when we hear? What are the things that are important? Because one of the problems with audio is that in the 40s and 50s, audio engineering was established based on a certain number of measurements that you made. And as you know, and particularly with what hi-fi is, measurements cannot tell you everything. Yeah. Some things can measure beautifully and sound horrible. Some things can sound amazing and measure badly. So to cut a long story short, we were figuring out what was wrong with current digital and how we could make it better. And neuroscience really began to yield some good clues for us. And interestingly, so did digital science.
Yeah.
This isn't going to sound like a technical lecture, but when things are digitized, we're used to pictures being digitized, to photographs being digitized, and sound being digitized. But when you do that, you have to understand to do it at its best, how subtle the human is in perceiving these things. You think about TV pictures. They went from 1K to 2K to 4K, and every time it goes up, people say, "No, I can't get any better," but it does.
Yeah.
And with audio, unfortunately, it was kind of stuck in a rut where they thought the way to make a higher quality digital was to make it go faster. We put up the sample rate, we put it up. We end up with files that are 20 times bigger than the information that's inside it, just because there's a small benefit comes from that. I guess I could explain it to you like this, that we figured out that conventional digital was adding, if you like, some pollution to the sound.
Yeah.
And high sample rates are like saying, well, I've got some polluted water and what I need to do is pour in lots of clean water to dilute it down, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, the other approach is to take out the pollution. In a sense, that's one of the things MQA has done. It makes the files not too small, but the right size. It's like you got a bottle of wine, you don't need a 5-gallon box to ship it.
Yes,
right? And in the same way, we were able to look at, okay, no, so this is great. Now we know how to make good recordings. And we can talk about how we deliver them later. But knowing how to make the recordings is great, but there's this huge catalogue of really important music, you know, all the way back to the beginning of recorded sound. So we can't put Ella Fitzgerald back in the studio. We have to find ways of bringing those sounds of all the great music into the catalogue as well as moving forward. And so we developed a set of tools that we call, for simplicity, deblurring. We take the poison out of the picture. Imagine it's like, if you've got a window that's dirty,
yeah,
you can see through it. If you clean it, you see better, you see more clearly. But you took the dirt away. So this is the sort of area in which we were working, and the combination of those things allowed us to come up with a technology that was solving a number of problems. And this is one of the reasons why many people are confused about MQA, because we're not just doing one thing. We're not a codec. We're not a high-res delivery. We're actually thinking about the whole problem from the studio all the way to your home. How do we capture it? How do we make it right? How do we make sure, for the benefit of the artists, that it's actually arriving? And then how do we allow you as a user to play it back everywhere you want to hear it, on a computer, on a phone, in your car, on a hi-fi, and so on. So this is the background to the MQA project.
Awesome. So you really delved into the science behind audio and listening and the auditory experience to create this audio codec that ultimately is changing and enhancing the way we listen to music.
Correct. It's based firmly on science, but it is a paradigm shift. And so, you know, some people understood this immediately, and some have come with this willingly, and some are still wondering, is it you know, real?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But that's okay.
I think one of the really important things that you mentioned is it's about packaging this authenticated master quality music into a file that's not too small, but small enough to, you know, easily download and stream without the sonic sacrifices, I guess, that you can get with some compressed music.
That's right. Well, you see, people will talk about the amount of data, the size of a file, and data rate. And the traditional way with high resolution is just to make the file bigger and bigger and bigger and put more space in it, right? But a lot of that is wasted. Yeah. And the real skill and the real trick of what we've been doing is to find out where the music is in that file. Let's say you've got 10 times the amount you need. But in the middle, there's this audio, and then we give it more attention than the conventional method. So we'll take more effort to get it right, but not the things that you could never hear or that don't make any difference. So this is looking for the information inside the data. Those two things are different.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so what are the main advantages and differences that MQA delivers to the listener?
Clarity, transparency, easy access to the sound. So when you listen to sound, whether it's over headphones or loudspeakers, your brain is working to interpret what's coming in, and it paints a picture in front of you. Yeah. You don't hear noises, you hear a guitar or a piano or a singer, right? The easier it is for our brain to do that, the better. And it's easier to do if the sounds only contain natural sounds. In the natural world, our ears are extremely acute. And by that natural world, I mean the sounds of the real world: wind and rain, rustling leaves, snapping twigs, music, people speaking, birds singing. These are sounds that all actually, curiously, mathematically, are very similar. Yeah. And but if we introduce certain kinds of, let's call them errors in the system, you can get unnatural things, and your brain starts fighting you, wondering what's going on. So you may think this sounds good, but it's very edgy or very bright, or I can't hear the room. So one of the things that MQA gives you with this clarity is you may hear an instrument, but you might hear all the space around it. Yeah. And you might hear the decays. And the great thing is it pulls you into the emotion more quickly. Yeah. So great sound gives you connection with the artist, connection with the music. you may not even notice it. As we know, for example, from our partners in Tidal, that the people who are keen on, many people listening to MQA are not all audiophiles,
Yeah.
right? They're music lovers. They're people who think, well, I don't know anything about this, but it sounds great. And that's what you get. So clarity, openness are the main things.
Yeah, and ultimately just reproducing the music the way that it was recorded in the studio, the way that the artist intended, which artists have been calling for yonks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we have tremendous enthusiasm from the artists we've had in the studio, and particularly from the mastering engineers and recording engineers. You know, some of the top guys in the P&E wing just absolutely love it. I mean, you've seen the quote from George Massenberg. He says, "This is the reason I can now go back into the studio, because I'm getting the sound I want." So, and in fact, as we developed MQA, these were the voices we listened to. We did the theoretical work ourselves, but the practical testing was done with this community, because who knows better what it should sound like than the guys who made the recording.
Yeah, of course. And the thing I love about that quote as well, though, is that it's almost reinvigorated his passion, you know? And I think it's not just about the end user, it's not just about the end user and creating this enhanced and amazing audio experience. It's at the artist end as well, knowing that what they're recording is going to be identical to what people are going to be.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing here.
And we were very lucky at the beginning to have, right at the outset, as partners, the major labels. So, you know, Warner Music, Universal Music, even Sony Music understood this completely and joined in with us. And, you know, at various speeds, they've brought out their catalogue, not just the old catalogue. And some of that's very interesting, but now day and date, your album comes out in MQA the day it's released.
Yeah.
And in fact, we've got, well, we're not quite sure, but anyway, 10 million albums have been encoded into MQA. So that's, you know, considering we started doing that work in 2016, 2017. It's quite something.
Yeah, quite quickly.
Yes, yeah. And there's many more coming. New labels coming. It's an exciting project this week of the Montreux Jazz from BMG. You know, just these things that come along, and immediately you can see the response of the listeners. This sounds great.
Yeah, I bet that must be such a good feeling, right?
Yeah. And another thing we did just last year, I think it was last year, was, you know, we started with what you would call the high resolution files, but we knew that there was a lot of music that was only ever going to be available at CD quality. That's 4460. There's between 1981 and 1990, most of the recordings were just made like that. So, you know, what are you going to do? You either go back to the studio and remaster it, which sometimes is not very successful, but otherwise you just bring it out. And our window cleaning, deblurring on that stuff is sometimes astonishingly good.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of enthusiasm around that. Yeah. So what you get the best sound. It's authenticated. When the light comes on, you know you're hearing it.
Yeah.
You know, when it's great.
I'm loving all your analogies, by the way. I can tell you many times.
When we started, most people who did computer audio or file playback or, you know, audio file space, many of your readers didn't actually have what we call a clean pipe. One of the things that MQA has helped the whole industry to do is to make sure that we can get the data from the studio actually to your DAC.
Yeah.
Because lossless, you think lossless would solve that, but it doesn't, because lossless is just how to move the data, but you've got to make the data and you've got to convert it. And D2A converters are not lossless either. So this is all quite subtle, but the main point is we've kind of pushed the game forward, as well as raising awareness and interest in high resolution.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Definitely something that, you know, Metro, when MQA started, you know, filtering in so many emails, so many conversations and panel discussions and things like that. And I did really see how it took off quite immediately. Interest and enthusiasm. So you're not wrong there, Bob. Now, for those who aren't up to date, can you tell us some of the latest MQA news?
Okay, so the obviously I've been telling you about the music, and and that's continuous, and we're all the time working to try to get and hoping to get services rolling out in other countries, in Asia and so on. So bringing more to more people. Other things are obviously our hardware partnerships. We've built up 100 licensees, companies that are really enthusiastic about MQA, and some of these very recent ones, like ASUS, the gaming headphone company, and Cambridge Audio and KEF, these are recent additions, are good because it allows us to widen the, if you like, the area in which people can listen to MQA. Of course, one of the cool things about MQA is that you can listen to it even without a decoder, but if you have a decoder, it gets better. And the better the decoder you have, obviously, the better you get it. So that's great. So we've got Tidal doing well. They've 4 times best service, right? And another thing that happened very recently is our first radio partner announced, Radio Paradise.
That's exciting. That's an exciting announcement.
So it is. And if you think about lockdown, which was perhaps a great worry for many people, we were ready with some things we were developing that will turn out, I think, to be very, very important. So, for example, you may remember we'd already done live broadcasts of MQA. So not studio recordings, but live performances. And we broadcast those. We had the technology working. That's interesting because it allows us to think about concerts happening and people listening to high quality remotely. That's important.
Have a live experience in the home.
Exactly. And we saw some of what was happening last summer, where concerts were being broadcast, as experimentally as live because they couldn't be held in person. Then the other thing is that we had developed the technology to put MQA with video. I'll perhaps talk about that a little bit, because what we call the origami, the process that makes the file smaller, is really beneficial for streaming because it makes the file smaller. Like I said, it's very beneficial because it gives us a lower carbon footprint. And we think that's very important. It's easy to think that that bandwidth is free or cheap, as you can get fast connection, but actually somebody has to send that data and somebody pays for that data to be sent. And often in many countries, you pay to receive it. So the amount of data that's being used not only is expense, but it's got an environmental impact. And I think we'll start to understand this a lot better. Yes. Quite an annoying percentage of the world's electricity is used to keep the internet running.
Yeah, I know. It's digital pollution, isn't it? It's a real problem at the moment. It's actually something I read about a few weeks ago.
That's right. It's something to bear in mind. Yeah. So there we've enabled that, but with video, all video sound is at 48 kilohertz, and so you can't put high resolution with pictures. That industry can't adapt to that concept. However, MQA can fold it down so it fits exactly with video. And this time last year, pretty much, we got involved in a few exercises where we were doing the live streaming. You may remember the one that was meant to be happening in South by Southwest, but ended up happening from London. And then some of these examples are on our website. Actually showing how high resolution MQA could be put on the video at the venue.
Yeah.
And this is terrific. And the partners that we've been doing that with, we also have partners in Japan doing this experiment actually with broadcast television. So now you think, okay, where's MQA going? Well, live music, TV, video. But in every case, we're bringing this great sound because, well, particularly with video and television, there's such a fight for the data rate on TV that often TV sound is very much the poor cousin. It's you're given 24 kilobits per second to put the sound in, and it's maybe you don't always hear what people are saying for that reason. So that's one part of it. So we've got video and TV, and then the other is radio itself. And radio, if you think about it, is the oldest format for listening. And it's very different. It's laid back, but it's also not just music. It's all sorts of things. It's news, it's plays, it's discussions, it's live music, studio performances. So all of these things, which today, even as radio moves from FM and DAB to internet radio is still at low bit rate MP3. So why? So we think that this is important. So you know, there's we're working with a partner in Japan. We're working with others, you know, that we will tell you about at some stage. But who can turn internet radio into something that is high quality? Because in the studio, they have something that's worth listening to. So, you can tell we're enthusiastic. But these are the areas of evolution and development in what we're doing.
Absolutely. MQA domination, broadcast, video, radio.
Well, yes, except we're not trying to dominate. We're just trying to make sound better wherever we can make it better.
Yeah. You know, radio has largely remained untouched, streaming internet radio as well. So it's a bit of a time for a shake-up, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, people are very au fait, very aware of visual formats, high-res formats, 4K, Ultra HD, 1080p, that kind of thing. But I think when it comes to audio, people aren't that as au fait with what they can expect out there. I think we only need to look at people on the train when we were going to work every day, and people just listening to music on their white Apple buds. I just think,
yeah, that's a very bad listening situation.
And that's not even getting to the format. This is just the hardware at this point, you know. So I feel like there is a bit of an education that needs to happen. But companies like Tidal and everything that you guys are doing are getting that awareness out there, and it's slowly going to pick up momentum, like with everything that you're doing right now. So that's fantastic.
That's right. One of the fun things about MQA, and I mentioned it right earlier when I was talking about it, is that we make sure it arrives as well as it can arrive. And so one part of the technology is when we come to unfold the music, how do we allow you to listen to it however you want? So, for example, you might have a great MQA-enabled setup hi-fi in your sitting room. And that's great. But you may also want to listen to it somewhere else. You listen to it on a computer or listen to it on your phone, in the car. And the way our technology works is that the decoder kind of knows where it is and knows how far to unfold it.
Yeah.
And it's also set up so that if it encounters an obstacle, it tries to get as much of the quality across that gap. So if, for example, things like AirPlay can be an obstacle.
Yeah.
You can only get 16 bits across, or something like Chromecast can be an obstacle, or another example is Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. And yet, we don't want people to not listen across those networks. They have to.
Yeah, cool.
But we would like to get as much of the goodness across as we can. And so MQ was designed to deal with these bottlenecks. And so there's some exciting developments coming in that area. Let's just say that.
That little teaser, I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to tantalize our taste buds, but I'll come back to that in a moment. I want to talk now on, the wider mainstream adoption of MQA. Yep. One of the main smartphone brands that supported MQA playback or been able to decode MQA was LG. Now, I'm sure you know the news. They very recently announced they're no longer making smartphones, RIP, a really sad announcement. Yeah. The tech industry. But what's the effect that this is going to have on MQA?
So actually LG was the second, because Onkyo, believe it or not, it owned in Japan only, had a smartphone that was MQA enabled. And yes, we were really pleased to be able to work with LG to do that. And in fact, we're still working with them on other things. But as far as the phone's concerned, right now you can listen to MQA and decode it on an iPhone, if that's what you have. But on Android, we have solutions coming that we'll be announcing at some point. Yes. But built into the phone itself, LG was a great partner, and we were very excited for that. However, what we think it's really about, and maybe the reason they stopped thinking they didn't have to make a smartphone, or they couldn't win in smartphone, was that there's a big shift towards portable music players. I don't know if you're aware, but I was astonished this morning. We were counting up how many so-called DAPs, digital audio players, are licensed with MQA technology. The number is 58. models worldwide. And so particularly if you, in some parts of Europe, but particularly in Japan and China, Korea, other around the Asian Pacific, it's a very popular form. So people seem to think, I want a DAP for my music, and I want a phone for making phone calls or doing WhatsApp. Certainly, I always felt like that was a good, but I'm a bit strange, but I always felt like that. If I want to get on a journey, I'd like to arrive with a full battery on my phone. Listen to the music in the highest quality I can have. But so this is one of the evolutions, I think, that's perhaps making it not so interesting for phone makers to put the technology in. Another change, which was, I think, spearheaded by Apple, was taking off the analog connector. You don't have an output for a conventional headphone, and people like that because it's convenient. But of course, it brings with it this nasty problem of now we've got to wirelessly connect to the headphones. And like you say, in the train, I mean, Bluetooth might work well sometimes, but typically Bluetooth only works well when you're on your own. And so you get 10 people in a railway carriage, everyone's dumbed down to the lowest possible sound quality you can get. Maybe in a train carriage, it doesn't matter. There's so much noise and but in principle, it has a problem.
Yeah. So how is wireless and Bluetooth then going to impact wider adoption of MQA? What can we expect to look forward to?
I think you'll see us helping people listen in a variety of wireless scenarios with higher quality.
Which is what a lot of us want. Wireless audio is kind of really key at the moment. 2 wireless buds. I think every other week a new one comes out. This is clearly the demand that people want. So I guess the next step is having that wireless hardware with the high quality audio.
Unfortunately, it's a world of rapidly changing standards. And one thing that, I don't envy anyone making a headset today, because if you think about it, there's different Bluetooth standards, there's Wi-Fi standards, there's 5G lurking in the background. And on top of that, the Bluetooth standards, there are so many of them. You've heard of aptX and LDAC and LHTC and the different codecs. And typically you'll find that a phone will do one thing, but the headset might not. And if you try to get them to match, right now it's chaotic.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know this very well at What Hi-Fi. You've seen, well, there's this one and it does that, this one does this. And the answer is, it's quite hard, I think, at the moment for the consumers to understand completely.
Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, we're completely happy with that. And as I mentioned earlier, if you've got a phone with an app running an MQA decoder, take the iPhone, for example, you can plug in one of our dongle DACs and get extraordinary quality. And, like started off, there was a Dragonfly and then there was a Zorda, but there's like 9 of those things and new ones coming all the time. So ways, if you really want good sound, you can get it by plugging in. At least as long as the socket continues to be there on the phone. Right.
Exactly. I think the interesting thing as well is you can have a DAC that will enhance your audio, but if you have an MQA enabled DAC, it unfolds that large goodness of audio quality, doesn't it really? So that's what's really important here, having that MQA enabled technology.
Exactly. And you can plug it into your laptop and listen there when you're not on the go. No, it's terrific. And the way we did it hierarchically, so you can do what we call the core decoding in the software app on the phone. It gives you the indication, all the information, and then out to the DAC chip. And ESS, great partner. They made, I've lost count, 4 or 5 DAC chips with MQA capability. And this allows all this to happen. So that part of it, what we call the last mile, where we get more and more smart implementations with Wi-Fi and different connections, is growing all the time.
Let's stay in the realm of headphones, and I want to talk about Asus and the MQA enabled ROG Delta S. Now, these are the first headphones with MQA renderer technology inside. So we're talking super impeccably detailed audio,
Yeah.
Game is the ultimate listening experience. It's been received pretty well so far. Are we going to see more collaborations on the gaming front, do you think?
You never know.
Is that what you're going to give me, Bob?
I think otherwise I'll be slapped.
No, but it's really good to see that this is the direction that the industry is moving towards. You know, it's small steps at the beginning, and it's interesting. We're having this conversation now, and it'll be really interesting to see where the industry will be, or where MQA is going to be in this respect in the next few years.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Well, anyway, we think we're doing good, bringing people great sound, and it's a fun journey.
Yeah. And what about non-gaming headsets then? Is this a generation of more traditional MQA headphones?
So basically, the chip is available to put in any headphones. So it's just a question of pulling together the partners. But we were very excited about ASUS. They love it. And what's interesting is it seems that the gamers particularly are very, very keen on music. I can't remember the exact statistics, but we're seeing that people in that market segment listen to more music than the average, which is maybe not quite what I'd expected.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
say that either.
Yeah.
Sitting all day, just sitting at something. You take a break from your computer, in comes some music, or maybe simultaneously. I don't know, depending on what you're playing. So I want to talk Spotify now. So Spotify recently announced their plans to launch a CD quality tier. This is big news. Spotify is a massive player in the streaming game. So they must feel that the market is ready for high quality audio. Yeah, the market's ready, but they now put it on the map that they're ready to take this move forward. Why do you think? Why now?
Well, actually, I think it's because of demand, consumer demand. In other words, their customers are saying, can we not have higher quality? When you've seen for some time services offering what they're talking about, CD quality, like Deezer for some considerable amount, for 10 years, I think at least, and other services giving that. I think that they're noticing that their customers want better quality. They've heard about better quality. They've experienced it. It'd be like you're a TV company and you said, we don't need to go to 2K.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So wanting better quality, and I think part of it is maybe our fault because we've been driving this conversation quite hard in a number of arenas.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And the other side of it is it's not just us, obviously, but there's been an increasing voice coming from the artists and the producers and the engineers saying, let us hear the real thing. When we came into the business, the authentication in MQA was particularly exciting to mastering engineers just because the music distribution industry had working practices that meant that you just couldn't be sure what you'd received. Mm-hmm. Something went in one end and it was like a sausage machine, and what came out the other end might have been the original, or it might have been changed, or it might have been through, into one thing and out of another. And so when you go to download stores or even to services, even now streaming lossless FLAC, you really don't know what you're getting. And the authentication of MQA tells you that this is actually the thing that was signed off. Yeah. And it's if you're a producer or a mastering engineer, that excites you. So anyway, those voices, and through the producers and engineers were saying, can we have higher quality? And of course, Amazon took a step, and Spotify must be responding to that. Mm-hmm. Amazon said, well, let's do high definition, which turns out to be 30-year-old CD quality. but never mind, it's not MP3. So as the tide rises, I'll see it go.
And am I right by saying that around 70% of new releases are recorded in high res? So it does make sense to deliver the studio recording. And I don't know, do you feel a little bit like, come on guys, you're a bit late to the
That's right. So whereas, as I said to you, the music from the 80s, and that's a lot of music, because remember how big CD was, and it was all like that, is pretty much in CD quality. Prior to that, everything was done analog, and the really great music can be brought in from analog tape, and turned into high resolution. So that's good. And as you say, the majority now are being made in high resolution. So, and with better tools and better ways of playing it back. So, but anyway, the other thing is, when you can stream CD quality, lossless, you can also stream MQA. So we shall watch Spotify with interest and see.
Yeah.
They might consider taking that extra step.
Yeah, well, I hope so, because it's, in terms of the, you know, the bandwidth needed and the requirements, it's not asking for anything extra, really, is it? If you can handle CD quality files,
it's the same.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, just to conclude, then, I guess, what's next, Bob? What's next for MQA? What can the industry and music fans look forward to?
Well, I think I listed quite a few things already so far. So more of this, you know, live TV.
Let's reiterate what you just said.
Live TV, radio, more streaming services, territorial expansion of streaming services, more great products. Listening in your car, maybe a service will appear in car, who knows? Ooh, this sort of thing.
Yeah. So there's lots to look forward to. I'm pretty sure people watching our fireside chat are simply salivating at the mere thought of what could be coming from the MQA camp. Bob, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and giving us this wonderful insight into MQA. You clearly know your stuff, which is why you've been given awards, which is why you're taking this technology to the moon and back. So thank you. This conversation did not disappoint. I look forward to what's next for MQA as you continue on this noble quest for audio domination and to ultimately change the way we all enjoy music. Thank you.
Lucy, thank you very much.
My pleasure.